You can't get great two-channel and great home theater in the same system, can you? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasalo with Audioholics. I wanted to do this quick video about dispensing the myth that you can't get good two-channel audio and good home theater in the same system. I know a lot of people feel that way, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced that in their own systems. But I'm here to drop some knowledge to tell you that that's not true, that you actually can get a great two-channel experience in your home theater. And there's 4 reasons why this might not be happening in your home theater right now, but I'm hoping you find this video useful and that we can get that fixed for you so you can comment down below saying that you now have great two-channel audio. So the first thing I want to talk about that really is a problem with a lot of people's systems and why they're not getting a two-channel experience is bad speaker positioning. Okay, that could really make or break a two-channel experience. Think about it for the minute. In your home theater, you probably have 9, 11 or more speakers creating a sound field all around you. When you're listening to only two-channel, you got to basically have only 2 speakers try to create that wide sound stage as well as a phantom center for you to create the illusion that you're listening to a big room, that you're listening to a natural live event. So if you don't have good speaker positioning, that really could destroy that whole possibility on you achieving that goal. So one of the reasons why, if you look in my personal home theater, and in fact in my family room system as well, I didn't go with flush mount speakers for my mains. I went with box speakers for my mains, and I put the center channel behind the acoustically transparent screen. Now, I'm not saying you can't get great sound having your 3 speakers behind a screen. You absolutely can get great sound, especially if you're more focused on movie watching. But if you want to really create that depth of sound stage, not only just the width, but the depth of sound stage, so it sounds like the sound is coming not only from the sides and from the front of the speakers, but actually behind the speakers. It's difficult and almost impossible to do that with flush mount speakers all on the same plane, that front wall. So by bringing the speakers out into the room, you can definitely get an increase in the depth of sound stage that you just can't get with your speakers behind a screen. So, and I'm not against flush mount products. I think they're a great solution in most cases. In fact, the reason why I went with the center channel behind the acoustically transparent screen is I didn't want to have a horizontally mounted center channel below such a large screen because it's a 150-inch screen. The center channel would be too low to the floor if I did that. And also, most center channels, when they're horizontally mounted, if they're not a dedicated center channel like a WTMW driver topology, if they have mid-ranges to the left and right of the tweeter, they suffer off-axis lobing. And if you get more than about 20 degrees off-axis, that means that those seats in those far left or right positions are not going to have as good dialogue intelligibility as that one main seat, the main listening position. The other advantage of having a center channel behind the screen is you can now put it vertically oriented and at the same height as your left and right. So that means your left, center, right, when it pans from left, center, right, it's going to be at the same level, and it's not going to sound like the image is shifting from, ear level down to below the screen. It's just a much more natural sound. So that's really important to get your speaker positioning correct. And we have a video, I'll put it in the card. It basically tells you how far apart your speaker should be relative to how far away you're listening. It's kind of like a golden rule. And it's a good starting point for you guys to follow, and then you can tweak on your own with the toe in and the distances and all that stuff. So speaker positioning is a really big thing. The next thing that I think is a reason why some people don't get a good two-channel experience in their home theater is they tend to overtreat their room. And I am not anti-acoustics. As you guys know, I have acoustic treatments in my theater room, and I've got them in my office right here behind me. But the problem is in home theater, when you have more and more speakers in a room, we tend to add more absorption because a lot of people want to rely on the speakers to produce the ambient effects in the recording, not so much the reflections in the room. And to some extent, that's correct. You tend to treat a room that's a home theater room with a little bit more absorption than you would maybe in a 2-channel room. But if you watch any of our videos with Anthony Gramani or even with Matthew Pose, we have a ratio that we say you want about 15% absorption, 15% diffusion, 15% reflection. You don't want to overtreat a room. And in my experience with the various rooms that I've set up over the last 2 decades, I've always found a good RT60 decay time, something you could measure with REW. I found a good RT60 decay time for a room that'll have enough reverberance to sound good for 2-channel, but also not be over reverberant for home theater, is around between 300 milliseconds to about 600 to 700 max milliseconds. Once you go higher than that, the room is too echoey and it just doesn't sound good at all. But if you go too low, like below 200 milliseconds, the room tends to sound too dry, which might be okay for home theater, but it's not going to be great for a 2-channel experience. So watch that. I'm going to probably do a future video on that. If you guys are interested, give me a comment below and we could go over these kind of measurements and show you how you could do these measurements to determine if you have the right acoustical treatments in your room. So the next thing I want to go over is bad subwoofer integration with the mains. And that is really a problem I often see online. People tend to just look at getting the flattest response below 80 hertz. They set up all of their subwoofers, but they never look at the response, the combined response with the main channels and the subwoofers playing at the same time. In fact, I look at all 3 speakers. I look at the main speakers with my subs. I get that integration good. And then I look at the center channel with the subs. And then I look at all 3 speakers, LCR speakers with the subs. So this tends to happen when you don't get the delay set right, or you just don't have good subwoofer positioning, or you don't have the phase. Something is off. And you'll get a really big suck out between the crossover frequency between the mains and the subs. And that could tend to sound like the system is disconnected, like you're listening to a subwoofer satellite system. And I often hear people saying, well, I only use my subwoofers for home theater and then I turn them off and I put my speakers full range and I do that for 2-channel music. My opinion on that is if you have proper subwoofer integration with your main channels, you should never need to turn off your subwoofers. They should sound very fluid, and in fact, the subwoofer should just enhance that bass and maybe even smooth out the bass across all your listening seats so you don't just have one seat that has good bass. You want all your seats to have good bass. So that's really important to get good subwoofer integration with your mains and your LCRs, basically. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is bad seating positioning. That's number 4. I've seen people's multi-function rooms where they put their couch on a side wall or they put the couch on the back wall. And those are 2 positions you really don't want to have if you're serious about sound. In fact, I would reserve those positions for the mother-in-law seat. And you should have a seat, at least 1 or 2, that are, centralized between the main speakers and at least more forward in a room than about a quarter of the length of the room. So you don't want to have the seats in that back wall area because that puts you at a pressure maximum and then you get too many standing waves and you just get very uneven bass. So really focus in on getting good seating positioning and at least get a couple of really good positioned seats that are central in the room. So when you're listening to 2-channel, you get that phantom center. It sounds like the center channel's on when it's not. That's when you know you've got good symmetry in the room, you've got good integration with your mains, and you're creating a really strong phantom center. And that's key to getting a good 2-channel experience. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys, back to the whole screen thing. I know people think, oh, a screen is going to kill the acoustics of the room and you're not going to get a good sound for your main speakers. Again, that's not true. Because if you look at what I did in this case, I took a screen, 150-inch acoustically transparent screen from Sceen Innovations. I framed it off the wall And generally speaking, if you can frame your screen off the wall, at least 4 inches off the wall, the studies I've looked at said the best acoustic performance you can get out of these screens is if you frame it off about 10 to 11 inches. I know that's kind of difficult for most people. I couldn't do it. I just didn't want to put all these 2x4s on my wall and frame it in. So I did this. I have 4-inch framed box here. And what I did was I used very dense foam. Actually, it's acoustic mattress or just a mattress foam, memory foam from Sam's Club. I tried regular just absorption, like 3-inch absorption, and it just did not work as good as this. So by putting all that absorption on behind the screen, putting the screen over that, it actually acted like an absorber because it's passing the frequencies, the higher frequencies, the mid to high frequencies through there. And it's stopping the reflections off that wall, and it's stopping the tympanic membrane effect from the screen when the sound is bouncing between the screen and that wall. So that really helps out. What I noticed is it really focused the 2-channel image better when I put this material up. And if you're putting all 3 of your speakers behind an acoustically transparent screen, you definitely want to cover most of that surface area on that wall. Don't leave that as bare wall behind the screen. Really will improve your sound right there. So that's basically one that I wanted to talk to you guys about. What do you guys think? Can you get good 2-channel performance in your home theater? I hope you say yes, because it is possible. I do it. I've seen other people do it. I know you can do it if you follow some of these guidelines. Give me some comments down below. Let me know if you want us to expand on this topic. I could bring some experts on like Matthew Pose or Anthony Gormani. We could go over this in as much detail as you guys want, but you got to give us the views. You got to give us the thumbs up. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. I appreciate your support. You get direct access to us if you want to suggest video topics or you just want to ask questions. Give me some comments on the type of countermeasures that you applied to get really good 2-channel audio in your home theater. I want to hear that. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.